I'm standing in a bathroom that costs more than my childhood home, vomiting into a toilet made of Carrara marble, while 200 people wait for me to walk down an aisle and marry a man whose face I can barely remember. My hands are shaking so badly I can't zip up this $12,000 dress. Through the door, I can hear my mother crying, not tears of joy, but something that sounds like grief. 3 months ago, I was sleeping in my car. Let me go back. Let me tell you how a mathematics PhD student with $43 in her bank account ends up in the penthouse of the Bellagio, preparing to marry into one of the wealthiest families in America. My name is Sarah Chen, and 6 months ago, I was exactly where I'd worked my entire life to be, finishing my dissertation at MIT on quantum cryptography applications. I'd survived on ramen, library coffee, and the kind of bone-deep exhaustion that makes you forget what month it is. My parents had immigrated from Taiwan with nothing, and I was going to be Dr. Chen. I was going to make them proud. Then my father had a stroke. The hospital bills started at $60,000, then $90,000. Then they stopped telling me numbers because my face apparently showed too much when they did. My mother couldn't work. She was with him 16 hours a day, and I watched her age a decade in 3 weeks. My little brother Danny was a sophomore at community college, and suddenly he was talking about dropping out, getting a job at Target. I took a leave from MIT. I had 9 months left on my dissertation. Just 9 months. I started applying for jobs, anything that paid. But I was overqualified for basic positions and underqualified for professorships without the PhD completed. I was invisible. 2 months later, I'd burned through my savings, sold everything that had value, and moved back home to help. Except home was a 1-bedroom apartment my parents were about to lose, and my father needed round-the-clock care that insurance covered like a Band-Aid covers a gunshot wound. I remember the exact moment I saw the ad. I was sitting in my 2003 Honda Civic in a Planet Fitness parking lot. I'd gotten a membership just to have somewhere to shower, scrolling through job listings on my cracked phone. The post looked like spam. Specialized research position, immediate start, compensation $500,000. I almost scrolled past, but it said MIT PhD level mathematics required, discrete, quantum systems, cryptography. It was my exact field, my exact dissertation topic, word for word. The address was in Cambridge, a building I'd walked past 1,000 times. Blackwell Tower, 40 stories of black glass that everyone at MIT whispered about. Venture capital, hedge funds, the kind of money that moved markets. I had nothing to lose. The lobby made me want to turn around. Everything was black marble and gold fixtures, and my reflection in the polished floor showed exactly how out of place I was. Thrift store blazer, shoes with the sole coming loose, hair I'd washed in a gym sink. The security guard looked at me like I was there to clean toilets, not interview. But he made a call, and his expression changed completely. "Miss Chen, Mr. Blackwell's assistant will be right down." The assistant was a woman in a suit that probably cost more than my car was worth. She led me to a private elevator, the kind that needs a key to operate. We went up without stopping. 40th floor. The doors opened directly into an office that wasn't an office. It was a cathedral of wealth. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Boston. Art I recognized from textbooks. Furniture that looked like sculpture. And sitting behind a desk that could have landed a plane on, a man who was maybe 35, in a Tom Ford suit, reading what I realized with a jolt of recognition was my dissertation draft. "Miss Chen," he didn't look up. "You're 3 minutes early. Unusual. Most people who are desperate are either very early or very late. Early means discipline. Sit." I sat. He kept reading. I counted the seconds. 47. "You're proposing a lattice-based encryption system that could theoretically resist quantum computing attacks." Still not looking at me. "The mathematics are sound. elegant even. But you've made an error on page 63. My stomach dropped. I'd reviewed that dissertation 200 times. He finally looked up, and I understood immediately why people called him Alexander Blackwell the Shark. His eyes were the color of winter ocean and just as warm. You inverted a variable in your third proof. Small mistake. Fatal consequences. It doesn't invalidate your work. It reveals you've been working under extreme stress and haven't had proper peer review in months. How did you... I know everything about you, Ms. Chen. Your father's medical bills total $267,493 as of yesterday. Your family is 11 days from eviction. Your brother is researching how to fake a GED. Your MIT advisor thinks you're having a nervous breakdown and is preparing to reassign your research. He slid a folder across the desk. This is what I'm offering. I opened it. The numbers made no sense at first. My brain couldn't process them. $500,000 signing bonus deposited today. Your father's medical bills paid in full. Your family's rent covered for 2 years. A salary of $750,000 annually, full benefits. An office in this building with resources that will make MIT look like a community college. I couldn't breathe. What's the work? Finishing your dissertation, under my supervision. Your encryption system isn't just theoretical. It's exactly what I need for a project that will be worth approximately $11 billion in 3 years. Why me? For the first time, something flickered in those cold eyes. Because you're hungry enough to say yes and brilliant enough to matter. I don't hire people who have options, Miss Chen. I hire people who understand that genius without resources is just noise. You have 6 seconds to decide. I thought of my father, tubes running into his arms, my mother's face, Danny talking about Target. I'm in. Excellent. The contracts are in the folder. Sign page 12, initial pages 8 and 9. Your signing bonus will hit your account in 40 minutes. One more thing. He stood, walked to the window. New England spread out below him like a kingdom. This project requires absolute secrecy. You'll work exclusively for Blackwell Capital. You'll live in housing I provide. You'll have no contact with your previous academic network until the project is complete. You'll report directly to me. And Miss Chen, he turned, you'll find I'm extraordinarily generous to people who deliver results and absolutely ruthless with those who waste my time. Clear? Crystal. I signed without reading. I know. I can hear you judging me. But you've never watched your father forget your name because his brain is drowning in its own blood while you count quarters for gas money. The money hit my account 37 minutes later. I paid my father's hospital bills from my phone while sitting in my car. I called my mother and told her to stop packing. I wired the first year's rent to their landlord. Then I sat there and cried for 20 minutes because I just sold my entire life to a man whose smile looked like a shark's, and I had no idea what I'd actually agreed to. The apartment Alexander provided wasn't an apartment. It was a 3,000-square-foot loft in a converted factory building in South Boston, with floor-to-ceiling windows, furniture that looked like modern art, and a view of the harbor. There was a car waiting for me, a Tesla, with my name on the title. A credit card in my name with no limit on the agreement. The office was even more surreal. It was on the 39th floor of Blackwell Tower, with quantum computing terminals that MIT would have killed for, a private library of cryptography texts, and an assistant named Jennifer who brought me coffee that tasted like it cost more than my previous weekly food budget. Alexander was right about one thing. I worked like I'd never worked before. Not because he was demanding, though he was, but because I finally could. No distractions, no terror, just pure mathematics, the kind I dreamed about doing before poverty turned my brain into a calculator for survival. He'd review my work every Friday at 6 p.m. sharp. These sessions were terrifying. He'd spot errors I'd missed, suggest approaches I hadn't considered, and occasionally, very occasionally, nod in a way that I learned meant approval. "You're not just solving the problem," he said one evening 3 weeks in. "You're seeing around corners I didn't know existed. Good." It should have been perfect, but there was something else happening that I didn't understand. Alexander's family started appearing. First it was his mother, Margaret Blackwell, who arrived at the office unannounced one Tuesday afternoon. She was 70, dressed in Chanel, with a smile like poisoned honey. "So you're the mathematician?" She circled me like I was livestock. "Interesting. Alexander usually has better taste." "Mother." His voice could have frozen helium. "Leave. I'm here to remind you about the Thompson dinner Friday. Claire will be there." "I'm aware." After she left, Alexander said nothing, but I noticed his jaw was tight enough to crack diamonds. 2 days later, his brother Marcus showed up. Younger, charmer, drunk at 3 in the afternoon. "You're the new project?" God, Alex really knows how to pick them. Brilliant and desperate, that's his type. Marcus, out. "Is this like the last one? Remember her? What was her name? Emily. The one who..." "Out." After Marcus left, I made a mistake. I asked, "What happened with Emily?" Alexander's expression went completely flat. "She's not your concern. Your concern is the encryption system, that's all." But I couldn't let it go. I did what any scientist would do. I researched. Emily Watts. MIT postdoc. Brilliant quantum physicist. Had worked for Alexander 2 years ago on a different project. Disappeared from public record midway through. I found one article, buried in a tech blog. Blackwell Capital project researcher hospitalized following breakdown. That night I couldn't sleep. I started reading my contract. Actually reading it. Page 8, which I'd initialed without looking. Employee agrees to maintain absolute confidentiality regarding all Blackwell Capital operations, research, and personal matters. Breach of confidentiality will result in immediate termination and legal action, including but not limited to recovery of all compensation and benefits provided. Page 9. Employee acknowledges that work product developed during employment becomes exclusive property of Blackwell Capital. Employee surrenders all rights to publish, discuss, or profit from said work product, independent of Blackwell Capital authorization. Page 12, which I'd signed. Employment term is indefinite and at will. Blackwell Capital reserves the right to modify compensation, benefits, and employment conditions at its sole discretion. I'd signed away everything, my research, my voice, my freedom, and I had no idea what Alexander Blackwell really wanted with my encryption system. The answer came 6 weeks later, in the worst possible way. I was working late. It was almost midnight, and I was close to a breakthrough on the distributed key generation problem. The office was empty except for security. I went to Alexander's office to grab a reference book he'd mentioned. His computer was on. The screen showed an email chain. I should have walked away, I know that. But my name was in the subject line. Chen Integration Timeline. I read 3 emails. That's all it took. The first was from his mother. "Alexander, this is absurd. The girl is nobody. The Thompsons will be insulted. Claire has been waiting 2 years for you to propose. This alliance is worth $4.2 billion in combined portfolio value. You cannot seriously be considering this alternative." Alexander's response. "Claire is a strategic asset, not a person I could tolerate for an evening, let alone a lifetime. The Chen solution is more efficient. The girl is intelligent, grateful, and completely dependent on me. She'll be far more manageable than Claire ever would be." The third email was from someone named Harrison, apparently the family lawyer. "Regarding the Chen arrangement, I've prepared the prenuptial agreement as discussed. She'll receive $2 million upon marriage, $10 million if the marriage lasts 5 years. All her research becomes Blackwell Capital property in perpetuity. She'll sign a comprehensive NDA covering all family business matters. Given her financial situation, I anticipate no resistance. The encryption project completion is estimated at 4 months, placing the wedding in the optimal window for the Thompson account acquisition. Brilliant strategy, Alexander. I stopped breathing. The encryption system, the job, the apartment, the car, the money for my family, it was all bait. He was buying a wife. I don't remember getting home. I remember sitting in that obscenely expensive apartment, staring at the harbor, understanding exactly how thoroughly I'd been played. Alexander Blackwell didn't need just my mathematics. He needed a wife who wouldn't interfere with his empire, who'd be grateful enough to stay silent, who he could control completely. Someone brilliant enough to not embarrass him, desperate enough to accept any terms, and isolated enough to have no leverage. Claire Thompson was old money, powerful family, probably someone with the resources to say no to him. But me? I was perfect. Brilliant pet mathematician who owed him everything. The sick part. My family's bills were paid. The money was real. If I walked away, what then? I couldn't give it back. They'd lose everything again. I was trapped in the most expensive cage ever built. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. I kept working on the encryption system, because what else could I do? But now every breakthrough felt like tightening my own chains. Alexander said nothing. He couldn't know I'd seen the emails. Our Friday reviews continued. His critiques were as sharp as ever. He bought me a $8,000 laptop when mine crashed. He sent my mother flowers when she mentioned her birthday in passing, a conversation I'd had with Jennifer, not him. He was perfect in every calculated way. Then, 5 weeks before my dissertation was due to be complete, he invited me to dinner. Not at the office. His home. The Blackwell estate was in Brookline, behind gates that looked like they could stop an army. The house was Georgian, probably 200 years old, the kind of place that had been in the family since Boston was still figuring out democracy. Old money, real power. Alexander met me at the door in casual clothes, which for him meant a $2,000 sweater and slacks that cost more than my previous monthly rent. He looked different outside the office. Younger, almost human. "Thank you for coming, Sarah." First names. That was new. "We should talk." The dining room could have seated 40. We sat at one end of a table that probably predated the Civil War. Staff served food I couldn't identify. Foam and microgreens and things arranged like abstract art. Each course probably cost more than my father's daily hospital rate used to be. Alexander barely touched his food. He watched me instead. "You've been different the last few weeks," he said. "Distant. I want to know why." "I'm focused on the work." "You're lying." He set down his fork with precision. "I pay attention, Sarah. You stop making eye contact. You stay later but accomplish less. You're afraid of something. Of me?" My heart was hammering. Should I be? For a long moment he said nothing. Then, "I need to show you something." He led me through the house to a room I can only describe as a war room. Screens covering one wall, files, documents, photos. Photos of me, my family, my brother at his community college, my parents' apartment, my car, my dissertation advisor, Emily Watts in a hospital bed. "What the hell is this?" "Due diligence." His voice was completely flat. "I research everyone I work with. I know their vulnerabilities, their leverage points, their breaking points. I knew everything about you before you walked into my office, Sarah. I knew exactly how desperate you were. I knew exactly what you'd sacrifice. I knew you'd sign without reading." I backed toward the door. "You're insane." "I'm thorough." He stepped closer. "And I'm tired of pretending you haven't figured it out. You saw the emails 3 weeks ago. You've been performing calm ever since, but you're not calm. You're terrified. You're buying a wife like she's a business asset. Yes. Just yes. No denial, no justification. Claire Thompson represents a $4 billion portfolio alignment. But she's also someone who'd challenge me, question me, potentially interfere with business operations. She has her own money, her own power base. She's a liability disguised as an asset. He moved to the screens, pulled up a file. You, on the other hand, are perfect. Brilliant enough to stand beside me at events without embarrassment. Desperate enough to accept terms. Isolated from your previous network per our agreement. Completely financially dependent on me. No social connections in my world. No leverage. The ideal wife for a man who can't afford complications. You're a monster. I'm honest. Most men in my position marry for appearances and keep mistresses, maintain careful lies. I'm offering you a transparent transaction, marriage with clear terms. Your family's security guaranteed for life. Your research published under Blackwell Capital with you as the primary author. That's worth Nobel Prize consideration, Sarah. Your brother's college fully funded. Your parents in a home with the best medical care available. You'd have wealth, position, and the resources to do mathematics that will change the world. In exchange for what? Being your property? His jaw tightened. In exchange for playing a role at public events, maintaining confidentiality about family business, and accepting that ours would be a marriage of strategic convenience rather than romantic delusion. You'd have separate quarters in whatever residence we maintain. Your personal life would be your own as long as it remained discreet. I'd never touch you without explicit consent. You'd be a partner in an arrangement, not a prisoner. Except I'd be a prisoner to the money. If I say no, if I walk away, your family loses everything. Your father's care stops. Your brother drops out. Your mother goes back to working double shifts. And you go back to sleeping in your car, this time without MIT to return to because you've been gone too long and burned too many bridges. He paused. But if you say yes, everyone you love is protected forever. Your work gets completed and recognized. You'd live in comfort most people can't imagine. The only cost is honesty about what this is. Why? My voice cracked. Why not just hire me? Why marriage? For the first time, something flickered in those cold eyes, something almost like pain. Because my mother is dying. She has maybe 2 years, and she's from old money, old values. She wants to see me settled before she goes. She's threatening to restructure the family trust in ways that would gut my ability to operate if I don't marry someone she approves of. Claire Thompson was her choice. But if I present her with someone I've already married, someone she can't reject without insulting me, someone brilliant, accomplished, someone who stabilizes me, she'll accept it. She'll die happy. And I'll maintain control of an empire that employs 42,000 people. So this is about your mother? This is about not letting emotional blackmail destroy what I've built. My father spent his life pandering to social expectations, marrying the right woman, playing the role. He died at 53 of a heart attack from stress. I won't repeat his mistakes. I'll marry once, for clear strategic reasons, to someone who understands this is business. And then I'll be free to run my company without family interference. He pulled out a document. I recognized the legal formatting. This is the prenuptial agreement Harrison prepared. Read it this time. 2 million upon marriage, 10 million if it lasts 5 years, then 2 million per year after that. At 10 years, you'd have independent wealth that would protect your family for life. You'd own the patents on your encryption work. You'd have full rights to any future research. You can walk away any time after 5 years with enough money to ensure your family never struggles again. Or you can stay, and we can maintain this arrangement indefinitely. Your choice. Always your choice. Except it's not a choice. You made sure of that. I made sure you'd have the information to make an informed decision. Most women marry men they barely know for love, a transaction based on hormones and delusion. I'm offering you a marriage based on honest mutual benefit, your security for my stability, your brilliance for my resources. And unlike most marriages, ours would have clear terms instead of vague expectations that breed resentment. He set the document on a side table, stepped back. Read it. Take a week. Discuss it with a lawyer. I'll pay their fees. Then decide. But Sarah, understand something. If you say no, I'll respect that choice. I'll fulfill our existing employment contract. Your family stays protected until the project is complete. Then we part ways professionally. I'm not a villain in a melodrama. I'm a businessman proposing a business arrangement that happens to be structured as marriage. I picked up the agreement with shaking hands. And if I say yes? Then we get married in 6 weeks. Small ceremony, just family. You meet my mother as my fiancée first. That's non-negotiable. She'd never forgive a secret wedding. You move into the estate. We maintain appearances at public events. And you continue your research with unlimited resources for as long as you want. The only thing that changes is your last name and your legal status. What about love? The question came out before I could stop it. His expression went completely neutral. Love is a chemical reaction people use to justify irrational decisions. I don't believe in it. If you need romantic companionship, take a lover after a year. Be discreet. I won't interfere with your personal happiness as long as you don't interfere with business operations. I looked at the agreement. The numbers made my head spin. 2 million immediately. 10 million in 5 years. My family protected. My research recognized. Freedom in 5 years if I wanted it. The cost? 5 years pretending to be married to a man who saw people as chess pieces. I need to think. Of course. He walked me to the door. Before I left, he said one more thing. Sarah, I'm not good at this, at people, but I respect your intelligence. I respect your work, and I'll respect any decision you make. That's more honesty than most people get from someone proposing marriage. The car drove me back to the apartment. I sat in that beautiful space, surrounded by luxury I'd never imagined, and realized I was being offered everything I'd ever wanted professionally, wrapped in a personal nightmare. But my father would have the best care until the day he died. My mother would never work another double shift. Danny would graduate college. My research would be completed and recognized. All I had to do was sell something I'd never even had. The chance at a real marriage, real love, real partnership. Was it even a sacrifice if you'd never had it to begin with? I called my mother that night. Didn't tell her about the proposal. Just asked her about my father. He remembered my name today, she said, and I could hear her crying with joy. For the first time in 3 weeks, he looked at me and said, Linda. Sarah, the new treatment is working. The doctor says if we can maintain this care level for another 6 months, he might recover significant function. After we hung up, I sat in silence for an hour. Then I called Alexander. I need to meet your mother first, before I decide anything. I need to see if I can actually play this role. If I can't convince her, this whole plan falls apart anyway. Fair, tomorrow night. Dinner at the estate. Just you, me, and mother. Consider it an audition. What do I need to know? Be yourself. She values intelligence. She'll test you, try to find weakness, don't let her. Show her you're strong enough to be a Blackwell. I'm not a Blackwell. Not yet. Margaret Blackwell was waiting in a drawing room that looked like a museum. She wore pearls that probably cost more than my father's hospital bills, and her eyes were the same winter ocean as her son's. Miss Chen, she didn't offer her hand. Alexander tells me you're considering a significant change in your relationship. He's proposed a business arrangement structured as marriage, yes, Her eyebrows rose. How refreshingly honest. Most girls would pretend romance. You're smarter than that. Good. Sit. I sat. Alexander stood by the fireplace, watching. Tell me, Miss Chen, what makes you think you're suitable to be a Blackwell wife? I don't. I'm suitable to be Alexander's professional partner who happens to be legally married to him. I have no illusions about belonging in this world. Interesting. She sipped something amber from crystal. Alexander says you're brilliant. Are you? In my field, yes. And humble about it. Rarer still. Alexander also says you're desperate, are you? I met her eyes. Yes, my family is in crisis. He's offered security in exchange for playing a role. I'm considering it. Most women would lie about that, pretend it's love. Most women weren't raised to value honesty over comfort. My mother taught me to speak truth, even when it costs. Something flickered in Margaret's expression. Your mother is Taiwanese? Yes. Traditional? Very. Then she'd be horrified by this arrangement. A marriage without love, to a white man, for money. Everything traditional Asian parents fear. My throat tightened. She'd understand I did it to save my father. Would she? Or would she see it as you selling yourself? Becoming what Asians fear white society will make their daughters, compliant, bought, emptied of dignity. Alexander moved. Mother, that's enough. No. I stood. She's right. My mother would be ashamed. She'd see this exactly that way. And I'd lie to her every day of my life to protect that illusion, because her shame is less important than my father being alive. I'd carry that weight. That's the actual cost of this arrangement. Not the marriage, but the lies I'd tell the people I love about why I'm doing it. Margaret was quiet for a long moment. Then, Alexander, leave us. Mother. Out. He left. The door closed with a sound like a gunshot. Margaret stood, walked to me. Up close, I could see she was sick. The makeup couldn't quite hide the pallor, the way her hand shook slightly when she set down her glass. I'm dying, she said simply. Pancreatic cancer. I have 18 months if I'm lucky. I've spent my life building this family's position, and my greatest failure is my son. He's brilliant, ruthless, and completely emotionally stunted. His father was the same way. It killed him young. I wanted different for Alexander. I wanted him to marry someone who'd challenge him, soften him, remind him he's human. Claire Thompson would have destroyed him. She's as cold as he is. Then why push for it? To see if he'd fight back. He never has before. She smiled slightly. Then he brought me you. A nobody from nowhere who's honest about being bought. Who doesn't pretend romance? Who'll carry shame to save her family? That's more strength than Claire Thompson has ever shown. I don't understand. Alexander thinks he's proposing a business arrangement. He thinks he's buying a convenient wife who'll stay out of his way. He's wrong. If you marry him, you'll disrupt everything he thinks he understands about control and relationships and human worth. You'll be chaos in his ordered empire. And maybe, just maybe, you'll save him from dying at 53, like his father did, murdered by his own inability to feel anything real. My head was spinning. You want me to say yes? I want you to understand what you're actually agreeing to. This isn't just a financial arrangement. This is you walking into a family that will judge you, social circles that will despise you, and a husband who thinks people are equations. You'll be alone in ways you can't imagine. The money will be a prison as much as a freedom. And if you're strong enough to survive it, you might actually do some good. Or I might break like Emily Watts did. Margaret's expression went cold. Emily Watts was weak. She fell in love with my son and expected him to love her back. When he couldn't, when he maintained professional boundaries and she interpreted it as cruelty, she broke. That's not his fault. It's hers for projecting fantasies onto a man who told her from the beginning what he was. Maybe he's the problem. Maybe a man who can't love shouldn't trap people in marriages. Maybe. Or maybe a man who can't love deserves someone who doesn't need him to. Someone who sees the arrangement clearly and chooses it anyway. Someone who's strong enough to live in the same house without dying from loneliness. She paused. Are you that strong, Ms. Chen? I thought of my father, my mother, Danny, everything they'd sacrificed for me. I guess we'll find out. Margaret smiled. It was almost warm. Then you have my blessing. Welcome to the Blackwell family, Sarah. God help you. The wedding was in 3 weeks. Alexander handled everything with the efficiency of a military campaign. Designer flew in from New York to fit me for a dress. Guest list limited to 50. Just close family and key business associates. Venue was the estate garden. Ceremony would be 12 minutes long. We'll write our own vows, Alexander said during a planning meeting. Keep them brief. Avoid romantic language. Focus on partnership and mutual respect. How romantic, I said, and he almost smiled. Romance is a marketing strategy created by De Beers in the 1930s to sell diamonds. We're being honest instead. My mother called the day before the wedding. Alexander had sent a car to bring my family to Boston. First-class flight, suite at the Four Seasons, unlimited budget for wedding attire. They thought I'd met a wonderful man, that this was a whirlwind romance. The lies tasted like acid. Sarah, I need to ask you something, my mother said when we were alone. Are you sure about this? This man, this family, they're so different from us. Do you love him? I'd prepared for this. Mom, I respect him deeply. He's brilliant. He's helped our family, and I believe we can build a good life together. Isn't that more important than romantic love? She studied my face for a long time, then in Mandarin. You're lying to protect us. I see it in your eyes. Whatever you're doing, whatever price you're paying, I want you to know I see it. And if you need to walk away, if this is wrong, we'll find another way. Your father is better. We're strong. Don't sacrifice yourself for us. I almost broke, almost told her everything. Instead, I'm not sacrificing anything. I'm choosing this. Please trust me. She hugged me, and I felt her trembling. She knew. She didn't know the details, but she knew something was wrong. And she was letting me do it anyway because she trusted I had reasons. That was worse than if she'd been fooled. The morning of the wedding, I threw up in that marble bathroom. Then I put on the $12,000 dress, let stylists do things to my hair and face that made me look like someone else, and walked downstairs where 200 people waited to watch me marry a man I barely knew. Alexander was at the altar, looking devastating in Tom Ford, his expression completely neutral. As I walked down the aisle, I tried to see him the way others did. Powerful, handsome, successful. The catch of the century. All I saw was the man who'd researched my breaking point and built a perfect trap. The officiant asked if anyone objected. Silence. Then we got to the vows. Alexander went first. Sarah, I offer you a partnership built on honesty, mutual respect, and clear expectations. I promise to provide for your family's security, support your professional ambitions, and treat you with the dignity you deserve. I promise to honor the terms we've agreed upon and to never expect from you more than you've consented to give. Everyone looked confused. These weren't normal wedding vows. Margaret was smiling slightly. Then it was my turn. I looked at Alexander, at his cold eyes and perfect suit and the wealth radiating off him like armor. And I thought about Emily Watts in a hospital bed, about my mother's trembling, about spending the next 5 years pretending. I can't do this. The words came out before I decided to say them. Alexander's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. Shock, maybe respect. I can't marry you, I said louder. I'm sorry to everyone here, but I can't do this. I turned and ran, made it to the garden exit before Alexander caught up. He grabbed my arm, not hard, just enough to stop me. "Sarah, wait." "Let me go." "No, not until you explain. You agreed." "We had an arrangement." "An arrangement isn't a marriage. I thought I could do it. I thought I was strong enough. But I'm not. I'm not strong enough to lie to my family every day. I'm not strong enough to spend 5 years in a cage even if it's gilded. I'm not strong enough to be your business asset, wife." I was crying and didn't care. "I'm not Emily Watts. I won't break like she did. So I'm leaving before I get to that point." "What about your family, the money, your research?" "We'll survive. My father's better. The worst is past. We'll find a way. We always do." He let go of my arm. For a long moment he just stared at me. "You're walking away from everything." "I'm walking away from a beautiful prison. That's not everything. That's nothing." I could sue. The contract, then sue. Take back every penny. It won't change my decision. Alexander was quiet for so long I thought he'd actually let me go. Then he said something that changed everything. "You're the first person who's ever walked away from me." I find that hard to believe. "No, you don't understand. Everyone has a price. Everyone can be bought, leveraged, controlled. I've built an empire on that truth. But you—" He looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. "You just walked away from $10 million, from security, from everything I know motivates people. Why?" "Because I'm not for sale. I thought I was. I thought I could separate my humanity from a transaction, but I can't. Nobody can. That's what you don't understand, Alexander. People aren't equations." Something cracked in his expression. Emily said the same thing before she broke. Then maybe Emily wasn't weak. Maybe she was just human, and you're the one who's broken. I expected him to get angry. Instead, he sat down on a stone bench, this powerful man in his perfect suit, and he looked lost. "My father," he said quietly, "taught me that emotions are liabilities, that attachment is weakness, that the only thing that matters is winning. He built this empire by being ruthless, by never letting feelings interfere with strategy. And it killed him, just like my mother said. Then don't be him. I don't know how to be anything else." He looked up at me. "I researched you because that's what I do. I reduce people to data points I can control. I offered you marriage because it was the most efficient solution to multiple problems. But standing here, watching you throw away everything I offered because you won't compromise your humanity, I realize I've never actually met anyone like you. Anyone who values something I can't measure or buy or understand. It's called dignity, Alexander. And you can't buy it because it's the one thing that only exists when you refuse to sell it." He stood. "What if I asked you to stay, not as a wife, not as an arrangement, just as someone who challenges me, someone who tells me the truth?" "You mean an employee?" "I mean a friend." He said it like the word hurt. "I don't have those. I have associates, employees, family members I tolerate. But someone who sees me clearly and doesn't run or break or try to change me, I've never had that. Friendship requires equal footing. We'd never have that. You'd always have the power." "Then I'll give it up." "Your research. I'll sign over the patents to you, no strings. You own your work. Your family's bills stay paid. Consider it compensation for the work you've already done, not leverage. You can leave Blackwell Capital, take your encryption system anywhere you want. MIT would take you back in a heartbeat with that breakthrough. You'd have everything you walked away from, except the marriage trap. Why would you do that? Because you just taught me something worth more than $11 billion. You taught me that my father was wrong, that not everyone has a price, that some people will choose dignity over comfort, humanity over strategy. And if I let you walk away, without learning more from you, without understanding how you do that, I'll spend the rest of my life becoming my father. And I'll die at 53, alone, having never actually connected with another human being. I looked at this man who'd tried to buy me, who'd researched my breaking point, who'd built a cage from money and called it generosity. And I saw something I hadn't seen before. Someone who was just as trapped as I'd almost been, just in a different kind of prison. I'll make you a deal, I said. A real one this time. Based on actual friendship, not transactions. I'm listening. I'll stay at Blackwell Capital for 6 more months. Finish the encryption project. But I own the patents. You sign that over today. I work normal hours, I go home to my own apartment, and you pay me a normal salary for a cryptography researcher. No mansion, no Tesla, no golden cage, just fair pay for good work. That's all? No. The rest is harder. Once a week, you have dinner with me. Not at a 5-star restaurant. Not with staff hovering. At normal places. We talk about things that aren't work. You learn how to have a conversation that isn't a negotiation. You practice being a person instead of a shark. And if at the end of 6 months, you've learned how to connect with one human being without trying to control them, maybe you'll have a chance at not dying alone like your father. You want to rehabilitate me? I want to see if you're capable of being rehabilitated. I want to know if there's an actual person under all that armor, or if you're just wealth and strategy all the way down. Consider it an experiment. He held out his hand. Deal. I shook it. His grip was firm, but not dominating. Equal. We should probably tell the 200 people inside that the wedding is cancelled. You tell them, I said. Practice being honest about failure. That's lesson 1. Alexander did tell them. I wasn't there. I'd changed out of the wedding dress and was on my way home in a lift. But apparently he walked back into that garden and said, "The wedding is cancelled. Sarah Chen is too intelligent to marry someone who views people as assets." I'm grateful she had the courage to say no. There will be no discussion. The bar is open. Margaret cornered him afterward. According to Alexander, she was furious for about 30 seconds, then started laughing. "You found someone who can't be bought," she told him. "Hold on to her, you idiot. Not as a wife, as a conscience." The next Monday, I showed up at Blackwell Capital with a lawyer. Alexander had the patent transfer papers ready, already signed. My name on the encryption system patents. Full ownership, no strings. "Your lawyer can verify everything," he said. "And here's your new employment contract. Standard research position, $175,000 annually. 40-hour weeks, full benefits." The apartment and car were part of the old arrangement, so I'll find my own place. Keep your stuff. "Sarah," he paused. "The apartment was bought, not leased. It's an asset that's just sitting there. It would be poor business to leave it empty when someone could use it. Consider it part of your compensation package. Market rate rent would be $8,000 monthly. You'd be saving me money by occupying it. You're doing it again, making everything a transaction." "No, He stopped. Thought. "You're right. I'm sorry. What I meant to say is, I'd like you to keep the apartment because I feel guilty about how I manipulated you, and this is the only way I know how to apologize. But I'm learning that's not a good enough reason. So the apartment is yours if you want it, but I'll understand if you'd rather have the distance. No pressure. Just an offer from someone who's trying to be a friend instead of a strategist." It was clumsy, awkward, completely sincere. I'll keep it for now. But I'm paying utilities. Deal. The first dinner was a disaster. Alexander showed up in his suit to a Vietnamese restaurant in Dorchester, looked completely out of place, and tried to turn every topic into a business discussion. I kept redirecting. "No work talk. Tell me something personal." "Such as?" "Anything. Favorite food, childhood memory, something you're afraid of." He was silent for a full minute. Then, I'm afraid of being alone, of reaching the end of my life and realizing I've never actually known anyone, and no one has known me. That all of this, he gestured vaguely, meaning the wealth, the power, is just elaborate noise to hide the fact that I'm empty. That's the most honest thing you've ever said to me. It feels dangerous. That's because it is. Honesty makes you vulnerable. But it's the only way to connect with people. You can't have real friendship while hiding behind armor. Over the next 6 months, something extraordinary happened. Alexander learned how to be human. It was slow, painful for him. He'd catch himself trying to control conversations, manipulate outcomes, reduce people to data points. I'd call him on it every time. At first he'd get defensive, then he'd get quiet. Eventually he'd catch himself before I had to. We had dinner every week, sometimes twice. Regular places, Thai food in Cambridge, pizza in the North End, a diner in Somerville where the coffee was terrible but the owner knew everyone's names. Alexander started dressing down, started listening instead of strategizing, started asking questions because he was curious, not because he was gathering intelligence. My family met him in month 3. My mother was suspicious at first. She knew something had happened with the cancelled wedding, though I'd never told her the full story. But she watched Alexander sit on their worn couch, drink tea from their mismatched mugs, and listen to my father tell rambling stories about Taiwan, and something in her expression softened. He sees you, she told me later. Really sees you. Not what you can do for him. You. She was right. Somewhere in those months, Alexander had stopped viewing me as a brilliant asset and started seeing me as a person. And more than that, he'd started seeing everyone that way. His assistant, Jennifer, the security guard in the lobby, the woman who made sandwiches at the deli. He learned their names, asked about their lives, listened. His business didn't suffer. If anything, it improved. Turns out people work harder for someone who sees them as human than for someone who sees them as resources. The encryption project was completed in month 5. It was revolutionary. Exactly what Alexander had known it would be. We filed for patents together, co-inventors, and every major tech company in the world wanted to license it. This is worth the 11 billion I projected, Alexander told me. Probably more. You could be independently wealthy from the licensing fees alone. We split it 50-50. You provided the resources, I provided the breakthrough. Equal partners. Sarah, you did the work. And you're the one who saw its value when I was sleeping in my car. We did this together. That's what actual partnership looks like. He was quiet. Then, I don't deserve you as a friend. Nobody deserves friends, Alexander. They choose each other. That's what makes it valuable. Month 6 came faster than I expected. Our last official dinner was at that same Vietnamese restaurant where we'd had the first one. Alexander looked different now, more relaxed, dressed in jeans and a regular button-down, smiling at the server when she brought our food. So, he said, 6 months. Time for your evaluation. Did I pass? Am I rehabilitated? You're not a criminal, Alexander. You don't need rehabilitation. You needed to learn how to be vulnerable, and you did. I'm proud of you. What happens now? What do you want to happen? He set down his chopsticks. Honestly, I want to keep having dinner with you, not because of an arrangement or an experiment, because you're my best friend. The only person who's ever seen all of me, the brilliant parts and the broken parts, and didn't run away or try to fix me or worship me. You just accepted me and challenged me to be better. I'd like that too. There's something else. He looked nervous. Actually nervous. Over these 6 months, something changed. I started feeling things I didn't think I was capable of. When you laugh at my terrible jokes, I want to make you laugh again. When you tell me about your research, I'm not thinking about applications. I'm just happy you're excited. When I don't see you for a few days, I miss you. And I realize that I've never felt this way about anyone. My heart was pounding. Alexander, I'm not asking you to marry me. I learned my lesson about transactional relationships. I'm just telling you that I think I'm falling in love with you, and I have no idea what to do with that information, because you've taught me that love isn't something you control or negotiate. It just is. So I'm being honest and vulnerable like you taught me, and I'm terrified that I'm about to lose the only real friendship I've ever had. I reached across the table, took his hand. You're not going to lose me. But you don't feel the same way. That's okay. I just needed you to know. Alexander, stop strategizing. Let me finish. I squeezed his hand. 6 months ago, you tried to buy me as a wife. I saw you as a monster, but you did something I never expected. You actually listened. You changed. You let yourself be vulnerable. You became someone I genuinely like spending time with. And somewhere in the last few months, I started feeling things too. Not the desperate gratitude of someone being saved. Real feelings. For the person you actually are under all that armor. Are you saying, I'm saying maybe we should try dating. Actual dating. Not an arrangement, not a contract. Just two people who like each other, seeing if there's something real there. No timeline, no pressure, no prenup negotiations. He smiled. A real smile, the kind that reached his eyes. I don't know how to date. Neither do I. I've been too busy surviving. So we'll figure it out together. Make mistakes, have awkward moments, do normal relationship things that terrify us both. What if I mess this up? Then we'll deal with it. That's what people do. Not everything is a transaction that you can optimize, Alexander. Sometimes you just have to be brave enough to try. That was 8 months ago. We're sitting in my apartment right now, the one he gave me, that I finally stopped feeling guilty about accepting. We're working on a new encryption project together. Actual equal partners this time. My father is doing well enough to work part-time. My mother has enrolled in ESL classes she'd always wanted to take. Danny is thriving at community college and talking about transferring to a 4-year school. Alexander is different now. His employees tell me he's the best boss they've ever had. He still builds businesses and makes billions, but he does it without treating people as assets. His mother died 3 months ago, and he cried at her funeral. Actually cried in front of everyone. She'd told him before she died that Sarah Chen was the best thing that ever happened to him, and she was right. We're not married. We might never be. We're just together, figuring it out day by day. Sometimes he slips back into control mode, and I call him on it. Sometimes I get scared of depending on him, and he reminds me that interdependence isn't the same as being controlled. Last week, he asked me something unexpected. Do you ever regret it? Running from the wedding? You could have had the money immediately, security without having to work for it. Every day, I said honestly. And then I remember who I'd be if I'd stayed. Someone who sold herself. Someone who taught her family that dignity has a price. Someone who let fear make her choices. I'd rather struggle with my integrity intact than live in luxury knowing I'd compromised everything I am. Even if struggling hurts the people you love. My family doesn't want me to sacrifice myself for them. They want me to be happy, to be whole, to be free. The security you offered would have been poisoned by the cost. This way, working together, building something real, we're all better off, not just financially, but as human beings. He kissed my forehead. You saved my life, you know. If you'd married me that day, I would have spent the rest of my life thinking I was right, that everyone can be bought. I'd have died like my father, alone inside an empire. But you showed me something worth more than all of it. What's that? That being known is worth more than being powerful. That connection matters more than control. That love is something that happens when you're brave enough to stop strategizing and just be human with someone. He paused. I still don't fully understand it. I probably never will. But I'm grateful you're patient enough to keep teaching me. I looked at this man who'd tried to buy me, who'd researched my breaking point, who'd built an elaborate trap from desperation and called it an opportunity. And I saw someone who'd been brave enough to change when shown a better way. Someone who'd admitted he was wrong. Someone who'd learned that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the only path to anything real. You know what the funny thing is, I said. If you'd asked me 6 months ago if I could ever love you, I'd have laughed. But you became someone worth loving by stopping trying to be worth anything at all. By just being yourself, flawed and learning and trying. Is that what love is? Being yourself with someone who sees all of you and stays anyway? Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. He pulled me closer, and we sat there in comfortable silence, working on equations that might change the world, in an apartment that used to be a trap but became a home, in a relationship that started as a transaction but became something neither of us had words for. Because some things can't be reduced to data points or controlled through strategy or bought with any amount of money. Some things you just have to be brave enough to let happen. I'm Dr. Sarah Chen now. Defended my dissertation 6 months after the cancelled wedding. MIT was thrilled to have me back, especially with the encryption patents that put their program on the map. I teach 2 classes a semester and run a research lab that Alexander funds through a grant program he established. He doesn't get any say in my research. That was the deal. We got married last month. Small ceremony, just family and actual friends, not business associates. My mother cried the whole time, tears of joy this time, because she could see I was choosing this freely. My vows were about partnership and growth. His were about gratitude for the person who taught him how to be human, no prenup. That was his idea. I trust you, he said, and trust can't exist with an escape plan. We're expecting a baby in 6 months, a daughter. Alexander is terrified and excited in equal measure. He's reading books about childhood development, about emotional intelligence, about how to raise kids who understand that their worth isn't tied to achievement. He's determined not to pass on his father's poison. What if I mess her up? He asked last night, hand on my belly. What if I teach her all the wrong things? Then we'll deal with it together. That's what partnership means. You're not your father, Alexander. You broke that cycle. Our daughter is going to grow up with a father who knows how to love, how to be vulnerable, how to value people over profit. That's everything. The encryption system changed the cybersecurity industry. We're licensing it to companies worldwide, and the fees make us both wealthy beyond anything I imagined growing up. But here's the strange part. The money doesn't feel like it matters much anymore. It provides security, yes. It means my family never struggles. It funds research that might change the world. But it's not the point. The point is building something meaningful with someone who sees you. The point is choosing each other every day, not because you're trapped or obligated or bought, but because you genuinely want to. Sometimes I think about that moment in the garden running from the altar, throwing away millions because I couldn't sell my dignity. It was the scariest decision of my life. It was also the best one. Because I learned something that day that no amount of money could have taught me. That you're only truly free when you're willing to walk away from anything that tries to own you, even paradise. And that the best things in life aren't the ones you buy or negotiate or strategize for. They're the ones you choose when you're brave enough to believe you deserve them. Alexander is calling me from downstairs. He's attempting to cook dinner, which usually ends in us ordering takeout, but he tries. That's what love is, I think. Someone who tries, someone who fails and tries again, someone who's willing to be imperfect with you. I close my laptop, shut down the equations that would have impressed the version of me who slept in her car, and head downstairs to the life I built by refusing to be bought. It's not perfect, but it's mine. Completely, authentically mine. And that makes it worth more than any empire.